With your help, we can continue to fight for freedom, reach new audiences, and bring important information to the public free of charge. This is not possible without your generosity. Join our quest for the truth and our freedom and donate today. Simply go to tntradio.live. When you need to know what's going on around the world, stay with Weekends with Jason Olbourne on today's News Talk, TNT.
And welcome back to Weekends. I hope you enjoyed the first hour with attorney Dave Shostokis, all the way from Illinois. We are going to continue with the theme because now we're going to cross to, we're going to head west now into the wonderful state of Arizona. I'm going to reintroduce you to Josh Bernstein, who many people have been able to catch up on a number of different shows here in a number of different formats. And that's because Josh Bernstein is himself a TV talk show host. He's a news anchor. He's a political commentator. Josh has been a guest on over 4,000 radio shows over the past 11 years and has been called a political savant by the late American radio legend Barry Farber. Now, what you want to do is check out Josh's website. You'll see it on the screen in a moment, but it's simply jbushow.com. Josh Bernstein Uncensored. Josh Bernstein, welcome back to Weekends and TNT.
Great to be back on the program with you.
Good to see you, Josh. And I'm just wondering, since the last time we spoke, it seems that, you know, if we didn't know, it could feel like it was 6 months or it could feel like it's 6 minutes. The news cycle has taken on a whole new velocity, if you will. It just seems there is so much happening on a daily basis and so much to decipher and to wade through. Now more than ever, your analysis is becoming invaluable to even people who in the past didn't know who you were, simply because of your ability to discern what's going on. Are you even confused by what's happening?
No, I'm not really. I think this is the largest gaslighting campaign that we've ever seen, quite frankly. You have the most unelectable, unliked candidate that basically pushed out the person that gave her the opportunity to become vice president. That's the loyalty that she has shown. She, along with Barack Obama and others, basically sat down on a Sunday morning and said, look, Joe, we're going to launch the 25th Amendment on you, and you're going to go because the cabinet will do that if you don't step aside peacefully. And so I think that he said, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to endorse Kamala Harris right now. And I think Obama did not want that. He wanted to have an open convention. He wanted some other people to possibly be the person involved at the front of the ticket, and even with a new VP. So it's an interesting situation that the Democrats have put themselves in. I don't believe these polls. These polls are +6, +7, +8, even +10 in some cases. Very, very small sample sizes. You're talking registered voters, which about 1/3 never even go out to vote. So what you really want to see is likely voters, but of course they're not doing polling with likely voters because they won't get the right type of measurements and outcomes. So what they do is they use small sample polling. It's called suppression polling, and they're trying to basically put polish on this Kamala character and make her seem more electable and more likable than she is. But the minute anyone hears her cackle, they clearly probably lose 5-10 percentage points with that alone. Look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I won't use the words. I was on Melinda Richards' show, so I'll be couth. But to an opposition researcher, Kamala Harris is a exotic dream, if you know what I mean. There is so much out there that you can attack her on. The fact that 18 to 24-year-olds, she literally said they're stupid, and that they're so stupid that we actually put them in dormitories. I mean, the things that she said, she's put more Black Americans in prison than street gangs, okay? That's the facts. She has protected child predators at the San Francisco Diocese. So there's so many things that we can just completely destroy her on. And the key to this election, and I'll say this point blank, the key to the election is driving her negatives up to a point where she's unelectable. That's number one. And number two, making sure that males come out to vote for President Trump. Because if you look at the last polling for the 2020 election, you had females at 56% for Joe Biden and males at 43%. Okay. And then for Trump, it was 49% for Trump for males, and it was 48% for Trump for females. So you can clearly see that these liberal, left-leaning women are the problem. And I'll say it point blank. They are the issue in this election. And so what we have to do is we either have to make them not want to vote, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And so knowing that, now we need to make sure that male voters show up at the polls in huge numbers for President Trump. And I will be working on that from now till Election Day.
You know, in the last hour, Josh, Dave Shostokis made the point that obviously aware of that Harris has never won a primary, never won a vote to become the vice president and the presumptive nominee. Not a single vote, not a single primary, and now being installed. It was bad enough when they wiped out Bernie Sanders for Hillary Clinton. It was worse when they didn't give him a chance in 2020 and they wrapped it up for Biden in seconds. And of course, Biden at that stage had been retired for 4 years. It wasn't like he was a working senator. He'd been out of the game. And now we have the same vote. And it just seems absolutely implausible that Kamala Harris could have any support, certainly more support than the man that spent 4 years in the office, in the Oval Office, another 4 years fighting, being shot at, being lawfared, etc. But the great cackler in would-be chief comes out, and all of a sudden she's got this incredible support. I mean, it's absolutely illogical. And I also mentioned that I saw a podcast yesterday. One black man hosting 4 men asked him, "Do you know anyone in your community or friends that have voted or would vote for Trump now?" All 4 put their hands up. And how many of you would now support Kamala Harris? No one. I mean, that's as good a sample as you're going to get. But this is the case, isn't it? That the whole thing is a gaslighting point. But who really believes that Kamala Harris can actually be an effective commander-in-chief, or as Trump said on the golf cart that day, to go up against a fierce Xi? What is she going to do against Putin? I mean, this just seems just insanity to believe that we're even considering this as an option.
Yeah, I would say white women in particular, certainly some women of minority colors as well, but mostly white college-educated women between the ages of, let's say, 18 and 24 or even 28, 30 years old. I think that these privileged people, and I don't mean from a white privilege standpoint, I mean from a standpoint of never having to really work for anything, been given everything, went to the best colleges, they're the most educated. And typically when they are the most educated, they're also the most communist. They're also the most Marxist. Because here's what happened. They go to high school, they get indoctrinated, then they go to college, and then they meet their Marxist professors that tell them that the U.S. Constitution is an inherently racist document, which of course it is not, and that it should be changed over time like a living, breathing document. And so what happens is they buy into this mindset, and it infects their brains, and then they go out and they vote against their best interests. I've been saying this for years. And so we have to hope that married women vote for President Trump. We have to pull away some of these single women and show them that this is what they think of you. They've called you stupid. They've done this. They've put more black people in prison, like I said earlier. And it's going to take a lot of work. If we just think we're going to, quote unquote, outvote the steal, that's not going to happen. So we've got to really, really work hard, and we've got to make sure that males that are working, that are busy and go, I'll get it next time. No, that's not a response that is acceptable right now. This is your future. This is America. This is our country on the line, and we've got to do everything we can to save it.
Yeah, well said. Now, we're going to go to a break in a couple of minutes, but before we do, I was hoping that you could tell us a bit more about your book, Preserving Liberty.
Yeah, Preserving Liberty. This is a book that has been written by me 100%, and I used left-wing sources on purpose so no one can say, oh, you wrote some right-wing book, because, again, the solutions are conservative and liberty-based, but the sources are not anything on the far left or anything on the far right. I actually did my research and found the truth when they had to admit the truth in a lot of different things, from Freedom of Information Act requests to their own emails I used against them. And so what I've done is I've come up with at least 10 legislative proposals that, if implemented, would drastically change our country for the better, for much more freedom. I go through election integrity. I go through how to rein in China, how to rein in the administrative state, how to do so many things, the border, of course. And then I have another 30 proposals on top of those 10 legislative proposals that we can do just to kind of get things back in order, and even show people how to fight back against left-leaning governors and attorney generals and secretaries of states and things like that. So I wrote this book with the hope that when the people read it, they literally have an audible gasp more than 5 to 10 times. I want them to grab their glasses and read it again just to make sure that their eyes didn't fail them. That's exactly what they wrote, that I wrote in this book. And so I think it's important that I wanted to separate myself from any other book out there that says and claims that they know all the solutions. I know that I do, because I've been working on this for 10, 12 plus years, and I've put all of that knowledge, all of that information into these 192 pages. And folks, you can pre-order the book right now on Amazon, Preserving Liberty book on Amazon. You'll see my ugly mug staring at you going like this. But please do check it out, get the book, and I guarantee you that it will help not just in America, but these are even ideas for simple, limited government solutions that even could be implemented in Australia and elsewhere.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I encourage people to go check it out on Amazon. What a great Father's Day gift or Christmas gift for anyone in the lead up to the most important election, certainly in our lifetimes and perhaps in all of US history. Josh, have you ever considered, and I know that you're obviously in the media, but have you ever considered a political career?
I've been asked by lots of people to run for office, from House Representative to the Senate to so many, dog catcher, you name it, all of them. I prefer to be doing what I'm doing. I don't want to become the politician. I want to report on the politician. Look, politicians are like dirty diapers. They need to be changed, and changed often. And it's important for people like me to be that can of Raid out there that sprays them and makes sure that they're doing the right thing. And so I don't really have any aspirations to be in politics from a standpoint of a legislative person. I may consider it sometime in the future, but I really do like the fact that I'm able to be my own independent voice, and I can go after anyone that needs to be gone after, whether they're a Republican, whether they're a Democrat, whether they're an independent, whether they're a judge, whether they're an organization, whether they're whatever, a foreign leader. It doesn't matter. I like the fact that I have that type of autonomy and freedom, and so I choose to continue to do what I do.
Imagine that, Josh. Real media doing the job of what real media is meant to do. Don't go to politics. It's a dirty business, and it is a blood sport. Stay doing what you're doing. Over the last 12 years that you've been sort of at this full time, therefore, how have you noticed your own skills changing or perhaps improving?
Well, I would say that the key to what I have been able to accomplish over these 12 years really boils down to one word: consistency. Being consistent with the audience, being consistent with your message, and always taking the liberty-based approach to everything, and always questioning. That's something that I learned from the great Barry Farber. Question everything. Never take anything at face value, right? What's the old saying? They say, believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you can see. And I believe if you go through life like that, you won't be naive, you won't be duped, and you'll be in a situation where you can clearly envision what the lies are and when they're coming. And so clearly that's why I said from day one, from the time I heard about the shot, I said it was an inside job. I didn't need to see anything. I didn't need to see video. I didn't need to see names. I didn't need to see locations. I just knew, as most people would know, look what they've tried to do to this man already, just as Tucker Carlson pointed out months ago. And so clearly you know that this was an inside job. There's no question about it. Now we just have to come down and figure out who it was and how it all transpired. And, the House Republicans right now are not doing themselves any justice, especially with Speaker Johnson, was ending up being a Big Johnson, if you want to know the truth. He's not putting Corey Mills, a sniper, on the panel. He's not putting Eli Crane, a former sniper, on the panel. So you know what? Corey Mills said, guess what? I'm going to do my own independent investigation outside of the House investigation. And I think that's wonderful. And I hope Eli Crane does that, and I hope others do that as well. Because the more voices, the more people, the more scenarios that could unfold. Again, I do believe there's a lot more to the story than what they're reporting.
Yeah, there is a lot that we want to talk about. We're going to take a break in a moment, and we'll get into that after the break because there are more developments concerning the assassination. And when you say inside job, you're not saying false flag. You're saying the opposite. This was something that's come from within the deep state themselves. Very, very disturbing. And there are, of course, rumours, more rumours of prior knowledge that are incredibly disturbing. And we have to be careful with what we say. But this goes all the way to the top, and it is just something that you're looking, scratching your head, thinking, of course, that with the Democratic Convention around the corner, reminding ourselves of 1968 and RFK being taken out himself, with RFK Jr., of course, running with the shots fired at Donald Trump. This is history repeating itself in the most awkward and unusual of ways. But of course, we look and watch on. Nothing really changes. There's nothing new under the sun, and we have to be aware of what is really going on here. Now, we will take that break. Now, did you know that there are many ways that you can watch or listen to TNT? Why not stream us direct from our website on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device, or download our app from the App Store. We even stream live on X, YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. We've got you covered on today's News Talk, TNT.
JDRF's vision is to create a world without type 1 diabetes. The type 1 diabetes community is at the heart of everything JDRF does. We were founded by the type 1 diabetes community. In the main, we are governed by the type 1 diabetes community, we're energised by the type 1 community, and we're accountable to the type 1 diabetes community. It's on their behalf that we exist, and it's on their behalf that we must succeed. JDRF exists to rid the world of type 1 diabetes. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. So for us, that means rallying all the resources and all the people and all the organisations required to make that a reality as quickly as possible. The world's best researchers, exciting innovative companies, and the passion of the type 1 diabetes community, then delivered through the health system so lives get better every day, day after day, until the day we find a cure. To everybody in the type 1 diabetes community, no matter your age or stage with the disease, whether you were diagnosed recently or a long time ago, we need you to know that we are here working on your behalf to deliver a world without type 1 diabetes as quickly as we can. Thank you to everybody who supported JDRF in so many ways. You are making our vision of a world without type 1 diabetes possible.
As a combat wounded veteran, I know how hard it is to come home and build a meaningful life. When I was in Iraq, our vehicle was hit. A rocket-propelled grenade exploded right under my seat. Traumatic brain injury, a fractured pelvis, severe burns. They didn't think I was going to make it. I had to learn to walk again and live with the scars, both visible and invisible.
DAV helps veterans like LaToya get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year in life-changing ways.
With DAV on my side, I was able to pursue my dreams. If my story can touch a heart, it can change a life. My victory is overcoming my wounds so I can help other veterans.
LaToya Lucas, may your victories inspire many more. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Digital TV and digital radio. Today's News Talk, TNT.
And welcome back to Weekends. My guest this hour is Josh Bernstein, and I really hope that you've got onto Amazon and had a look there and perhaps even made your pre-order for Preserving Liberty. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy. And Josh, I think it's wonderful that you've put so much work in.
And by the way, Jason has written a blurb for the book.
Yes.
So, And he's thanked in the book personally.
Well, there you go. I really appreciate that too, Josh. It's just a big deal. And many of us put it down as something that we'd all like to do. And there it is. You've gone out and done it. And it's not something that you knock over in 5 minutes. This has been, a life's work, and more power to you. And I hope that there are many, many books that we can read from Josh Bernstein as the years go on. But may this one be a great success to you. Well, the work never stops, of course, and you did bring up before the break about the startling information that's coming out. Speaker Johnson really, again, under-delivering in terms of expectations. But there are more and more revelations coming out. The FBI are now allegedly saying that Thomas Crooks was an anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic social media account on Gab. I was hoping that you can fill us in on some of the details because, of course, this just does not add up.
No, it really doesn't add up at all. As a matter of fact, what they're basically saying, well, first off, you have this acting Secret Service director now who lost his cool in the hearing today and is clearly on the left, by the way. He's not an independent. He's not impartial. He's a partisan hack. He worked for Senator Leahy in Vermont. He also was working for the Obama administration. So this is not like they picked an independent moderate or somebody that was not removed from this situation. So anything that this person says, you can take it with a grain of salt, to be quite honest. But just by going through some of the interesting things that we have found is that they have said that this kid may have had an account, and the account may have said things about anti-Semitism, anti-immigration, and all of that. And the interesting thing is that they said that the account was on a social media app known as Gab. And Gab is owned and run by the CEO and the founder, Andrew Torba. Andrew Torba is a Christian and is a truth teller as well. And he has come out and he has said that this is not consistent with Gab's understanding of the shooter's motives based on emergency disclosure requests that we received from the FBI last week for the Gab account titled Epic Microwave, which, based on the content of the EDR, the FBI appeared to think belonged to Thomas Crooks. Many, particularly regime media reporters, have doubted Gab's claims that the request existed. Normally, we do not confirm the existence of content for law enforcement communications, but in this instance, we felt that we had to make this exception due to the overwhelming public interest in disclosure for transparency. As a courtesy to law enforcement, we are not going to post the entire request. However, this is the first page of that request. The story is unequivocally false. This person, Thomas Crooks, put 9 things on Gab. He did not do any direct messages, and everything that he talked about unequivocally shows him to be a pro-Biden, open borders, pro-immigration, left-wing, pro-lockdown Biden supporter, end quote. And that's from Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab. I would take his word over the Secret Service, the FBI, the CIA, and anybody else, 7 days out of the week and twice on Sundays.
Is it any wonder, therefore, that people no longer trust the institutions in the United States of America, Josh?
And it's sad because, you know what, the FBI and the CIA and some of these organizations for many years, they were all about protecting Americans. They were protecting, the country from terrorist attacks, things like that. They did real investigative work. They didn't just pigeonhole things and work for one party over the other. And now we've seen the leadership of both just been an absolute disaster. It's truly the enemy within. I hate to say it. And I'm not talking about so much of the agents and the grunts on the ground. They still try to do the best they can. They do good work. But it's the 7th floor. It's the people that run things behind the scenes, the administrative state, as we call it. They are indeed the issue, and they are indeed the problem. And they are focused and driven on targeting people that the regime in Washington wants them to target. And that's the problem that we have here in America.
What did you think when Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, comes out and says we don't know if it was a bullet that struck Trump, but maybe some shrapnel or glass?
Well, President Trump just today, I believe, retweeted a meme or a post that literally says, "What did FBI Director Wray know and when did he know it?" So he's even insinuating that this could have been something, nefarious from the inside as well. And that's coming from President Trump. Look, I'll say this now, and I hope he gets a chance to see this or hear this, or maybe some of his surrogates that watch my show in America will tell him, your life is in danger, sir. Your life is in danger. I am very, very, very scared for President Trump and his life because as the Secret Service agent said that wrote the letter today and was sent in, and then, of course, they blocked it, that person said that they believe there's going to be another assassination attempt within the next 30 days. God, I hope that's not the case. And President Trump needs to understand, you know what? You've already proven that you can do rallies. You've proven that you're tough. You did what you had to do. You ought to take a back seat and you ought to be behind plexiglass, bulletproof glass. And I would not do any outdoor rallies. I would do everything indoors. I would have nobody behind you. And, I hate to say it, it's almost like we're in the days of the Pope Mobile. That's unfortunately what needs to happen here because he is that viable. He is that precious for America and, quite frankly, for the rest of the world. Because without that type of leadership, the rest of the world is going to suffer. It's not just the United States of America. And now there's also been reports, I believe you actually had this in an article, that Barnes Law Group literally said that Pompeo wanted to be the vice president for what I call Nikki Nutbag, but for Nikki Haley here in America. And he was pointing that out before the assassination attempt came out. So you've got to ask yourself more questions about that. Why would he say that? What would be his reasoning for that? And let's not forget, we know it's a fact that he wanted to assassinate Julian Assange. That's not hearsay or opinion. That's a fact. Even Tucker Carlson went to Australia a few weeks ago and he said it. So again, these people are capable of just about anything. And I think it's important for the people watching this to understand that.
We've been watching this for a very long time and trying to predict what might come next. Of course, another virus, another war. What else could it be? Then, of course, the gunshots of a couple of weeks ago, which, obviously Tucker Carlson predicted, as did others, and clearly it's been telegraphed with people thinking that they're going to become Nikki Haley, the replacement nominee. Goodness me. Given now what's happened in what you just said there with Pompeo, should something happen to Donald Trump, God forbid, does J.D. Vance become the nominee at that point? Is that how it works?
Well, yes, he would, obviously. And then from that point, they would pick another vice presidential choice. But, God, I really just don't even want to put that out there in the stratosphere. I really hope and pray that that doesn't happen. And so that's why I'm telling people that I know. I just had Peter Navarro on my show. Of course, is very close with President Trump. I told him off the air. I've told many others as well that he's got to be protected. He can't just go out there and say, I'll fight back against these people no matter what, because I don't care how tough you are. A bullet from one of those guns is going to end your life. And he needs to be cognizant of that. I believe he is, but he's also on the other side saying that he needs to project strength. Clearly, we know that he projects strength. Clearly, we know that he's one of the toughest politicians, presidents, humanitarians, patriots, whatever you want to call him, that we've ever seen in this country's history. He is definitely one of those, if not the best and the most toughest. But he has to understand that these people are willing to do and try anything to try to make sure that we don't make America great again and again and again. And that's really the issue. And it's something that he needs to take very, very seriously. And I just hope to God and I pray to God that nothing happens to him and that he can win this election and get rid of this administrative state that is secretly trying to undermine him and destroy him every chance they can get.
And that's the point, isn't it? Because People are so confused. And the one thing I brought up in the last hour was that the one thing Trump does better than anyone is he keeps everyone guessing. The assassination's a perfect example. You've got the possibility of an inside job, a false flag, divine intervention, dumb luck, time travel. They're all plausible arguments, if you will, if you want to go down that pathway, but no one knows. And at the same time, why would it be that if he is part of the establishment that some people want to argue, and they say that because of Operation Warp Speed and he's just doing the same bidding of everyone else, why are they so desperate now to take him out and not have him contest the election, certainly not win the election? It can only come down to the fact that it's people protecting their own interests, and it is the administrative state, as you call it, the deep state, if you will, that know that their days are numbered, and the corruption of the institutions goes far and deep. So therefore, it must be said that the truth tellers, the once formerly known as the conspiracy theorists, are the ones that have done the hard yards in this for a very, very long time and keep pointing out facts that become accepted truths. Therefore, are we really dealing with an administrative state as cunning and as evil as we've always thought they were?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Look, Chuck Schumer said many years ago, if you come after the administrative state, they have, 100 different ways to get back at you. If you remember, there was a comment many years ago. But I think President Trump needs to understand that he is in danger. And why? Well, because they all know that once he's back in power, he's going to go after them and he's going to expose everything that they have done and have continued to do against him and this country. And they understand that when that comes out, their lives, their livelihoods, everything, their freedom is all going to be in jeopardy at that point. And so that's why you are seeing this desperation, if you will, from this administrative state, trying to do whatever they can to take him out. And it's sick, it's demented, but it's also the reality that President Trump and his campaign need to understand that you can't trust anyone, especially in the Secret Service. The last thing I would be doing is praising them. I would be hiring my own independent security for all of my rallies, and I would be behind bulletproof glass all around me so that no one could take a pot shot at him. That's what I would do, and that's what I would tell him. And as far as talking about dismantling the administrative state and all that, if I was running his campaign, I never would have said anything. And if, the Project 2025 people, I would have told them to be silent. I would have just ran on the bad record of what is in front of us for the last 4 years. And then once you win, then you go after the administrative state. Then you do all these other things. You implement all these things. You want to catch them by surprise. Why would we tell our enemy what we're going to do to them? That doesn't make any sense, right? It's kind of like the pull out of Afghanistan, isn't it? Why would you tell them? Just do it. And do it at the right time, and don't leave $80 billion worth of equipment behind and 14,000 people. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. People make this derogatory term, and it's been used against anyone who's ever run as a political candidate, that they are controlled opposition. And it's even said that, and the same, I don't know why it gets under my skin so much, but I guess it's when you watch social media and you see people that should choose a side and fight the battle and stay there and fight that battle, they will call Trump controlled opposition. Imagine being in his shoes now, potentially, the likely next occupant of the Oval Office, and having to face up against the FBI, who are willingly white-anting him, the termites trying to rip him apart, eat him alive, but having to negotiate with them in order to protect the United States and the people of the United States, knowing that they are sworn enemies, if you will. How do you therefore play both sides of that fence the way that he does, and still, as you just alluded to, still praising the Secret Service? I mean, this takes a level of skill that we just can't contemplate as average laymen.
Well, first and foremost, let's not forget, before being a politician, he was a businessman. He was a successful businessman, ran lots of successful businesses, pretty much built the New York City skyline, let's face it. And so before that, he was hiring people, firing people, running organizations, making payrolls and all these different things that none of these people have experience, for the most part, doing. And so when he became a politician, he didn't realize the demonic forces that encompass Washington, D.C. He might have thought, they're dirty politicians. They say certain things and this and that. No, you got to understand, these people have been entrenched in Washington. There's a part of my book called Dismantling Washington, chapter 4. As a matter of fact, I talk about the fact that Washington, D.C. is 68.3 square miles. There's 12,500 registered lobbyists in 68.5 square miles. That's 183, if I'm doing the math off my head, lobbyists per square mile. Okay, those are the types of things I talk about in the book. So clearly what you have here is you have an infestation. It's not even a swamp. It's an infestation. And so he's surrounded by enemies, completely surrounded by enemies. It's almost like Israel, right? Israel is surrounded by enemies all over. President Trump is surrounded by enemies, and not just in Washington, but everywhere. He's got to watch out from every angle and every position. And so they know that their days are limited when he comes back into power. So again, he is smart. I don't believe he's controlled opposition. I've never believed that. Has he made dumb choices? Absolutely. Getting behind anything Dr. Falsey talks about is number one. Number two, Operation Warp Speed was the worst thing that he ever could have gotten behind. And the other thing I didn't like is he wanted to do a military parade like they do in third world countries, where they show all of our military apparatus. And I said, what the heck? What are you talking about? Why would you do that? Why would you telepath that to your enemies? So there are certain things that he does and says, like, for instance, the other day when he said, oh, don't worry about it, vote for me this time, and then you don't have to vote anymore. I'm sorry, but that's a self-induced error right there. That was a stupid thing for President Trump to say, because the left is going to jump all over that and go, oh, he's going to fix it so he can be a dictator for life. That's where their brains go. I understood what he meant by it. We're going to fix it so you don't have to worry about the fraud and that you can have free and fair elections in the future. I get it, but that's not how he said it. And so, again, these are some of the things that drive people crazy. But to say that he's controlled opposition, I can't go that far.
Yeah, no, it just...
No one's willing to take a bullet as controlled opposition, sorry.
That's right. It beggars belief, and whether you want to believe any fantasy that says that he did it to himself to gain votes just is implausible. Sick. But it's another story for another day. Now, Josh, what we'll do is we'll take a break. We'll come back. There's a whole lot more I want to discuss with you. You're watching and listening to Weekends here on TNT.
Here's a bushfire fact. Bushfires can occur without warning. So if you're travelling during bushfire season, here are 3 simple steps to remember. 1. Check the fire danger rating before you go. The higher the fire danger rating, the more dangerous the conditions. It may be safer to replan your trip. 2. Think about the area you're going to and what you would do if a fire started. How would you escape the area if you needed to? And where would you go? Check if there's a neighbourhood safer place. 3. It's dangerous to drive through smoke or fire. If you can't find a way to avoid the fire, park in a cleared area, face the car towards the fire, and turn the engine off. Then lie on the floor and cover yourself to protect yourself from radiant heat. Live bushfire ready. For more helpful tips, visit myfireplan.com.au today.
When a crisis hits, close to home and across the globe, nonprofits are on the front lines, ready to serve.
Keep coming.
The demand for charitable services has skyrocketed, and nonprofits are rising to meet the needs. Healing, nurturing, rescuing, honoring, protecting, caring, inspiring. The work of philanthropic organizations of all sizes, across all missions, has never been more important, and it's donors and volunteers like you who make all this possible. Thank you. Together, we change the world. The Nonprofit Alliance.
This is Weekends with Jason Olbourne on today's News Talk, TNT.
And welcome back to Weekends. My guest this hour is the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Preserving Liberty, Josh Bernstein. And we've covered off on many topics so far, Josh, and I was hoping to get your perspective on the latest James O'Keefe undercover story that has Kamala Harris not getting as much approval as we're being told. What was the latest?
Yeah, James O'Keefe, God bless him, OMG Media Group, they do a fantastic job. I like the fact that he's now independent and kind of doesn't have to worry about Project Veritas coming after him and, trying to stop his investigations. He's doing it all on his own. And the newest one basically has somebody that works as a compliance officer for the DNC, basically the Democrat National Convention, and for all of their fundraising and things like that. And basically, he's on camera talking about the fact that they lie to the donors and they tell the donors what they want to hear. They give them a sob story. They tell them why they need $25,000, $50,000. The donors say something like, we should really be attacking Trump more. And then he said something like, well, yeah, we need $25,000 to go up on television and print and all that to do that. And then they lie to them knowing that Kamala can't win. He even says nobody likes her. Nobody likes her within the regime. They understand that she's damaged goods. And 92% of all the people that worked for her are already gone in 3.5 years. She's a bully. She's somebody that, treats her staff terrible. Now there's another report out that just broke a few hours ago that literally says that the interns that worked for her were, quote, not allowed to look her directly in the eye. And that was only reserved for people on the senior staff. Imagine that. Imagine that. She's telling these people, you can't look me directly in the eye. That is the most insane thing. And here's the thing. There's going to be more and more and more people that have been a victim of Harris from incarceration. There's already one right now out there, a black individual that was charged with murder. And basically he finally was exonerated. But he said that she was in the back cackling and laughing, And so this is a really evil, evil communist. People need to understand that. This is not a woman. This is an evil communist. And God forbid she gets the throngs of power. And if you want to know what she would do, just look at the last 4 years. Because if anyone thinks that Joe Biden was making those decisions, then they're not paying attention. And I've got waterfront property to sell them in Arizona. Okay? Yeah. Because clearly Kamala and Jill and a whole other group of oligarchs, if you will, have been running, destroying, I should say, this country for 4 years.
Now, this brings up a really interesting, course of events to come in terms of the Democratic Convention. Now, her nomination is not exactly guaranteed, so there could well be a challenge. But of course, she also has to select a vice presidential, a running mate. Now, could you imagine if Hillary Clinton was able to become the nominee? I mean, the only person that Kamala Harris would have to look over her shoulder towards would have to be Hillary, wouldn't it? 2.0?
Well, we know about the Hillary body count and the Clinton body count. I don't know if they're going to go that route. I mean, obviously, she ran against President Trump and lost. So there is that I guess, vulnerability factor. I think, if anything, they're probably going to go with somebody like either a Josh Shapiro or now I'm hearing from Kentucky, Andy Beshear is somebody that they try to call a moderate. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I prefer to see someone like Shapiro for a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is because, like myself, he's also Jewish. And I think having a Jewish person with the last name of Shapiro, where it says Harris Shapiro, I think that's going to turn off a lot of the anti-Semitic left-leaning base of Democrat support. And they'll either maybe stay home or maybe they'll riot or who knows what they'll do. They'll boycott because they're not going to want to support a Jewish person on the ticket with her. So as I said before, and I'll say it again publicly, I'll take a little bit more anti-Semitism in order to put Trump in the White House.
Yeah, how about that for a perspective? It's really interesting, isn't it, to think
It
that
is.
she would go down that pathway and pick Shapiro, who appears to be on the surface effective in Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania is not what we think it is, and of course it's the home of where the shooting took place, of the great controversy in 2020. So Josh Shapiro can't exactly be unblemished, virgin white, if you will. There's certainly something going on under the surface. You look at other contenders, and of course, then you've got the identity politics where Pete Buttigieg's name is coming up, goodness me, as a VP nominee. I mean, throw
Pickle
that one
Pete.
out there.
That's what I call him on my show.
What do you call him?
Pickle Pete, I call him on my show. I got lots of nicknames for these folks.
Oh, goodness me. Here he is calling J.D. Vance weird of all things. It's just extraordinary to think that all the usual suspects. I'm surprised Cory Booker hasn't been wheeled out once again to be sold as a potential running mate, Josh.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to see that. That's for sure. Look, I said this before, and I'll say it again. I probably even said it on your show. I like J.D. Vance. Obviously, I'm going to support President Trump and J.D. Vance, but I really was hoping that he was going to choose a black conservative, a Dr. Ben Carson or a Byron Donalds. Obviously, if you're looking towards the future, Byron Donalds, he's very young and he would have been able to run in 2028. And really, the reason I wanted it is not really in for identity politics. I wanted to open up the hearts and minds to minority voters and show them that this here, like a Byron Donalds or a Dr. Ben Carson, this is what you should be supporting and voting for. People that love the country, that love you, that want to make you better, that want to increase, your freedom in your neighborhoods and your communities and things like that. Not these left-leaning people that are minorities that all they want to do is be corrupt and let drugs come in and open borders and all that. So I really wanted to show the difference between the two. And I think if we had that ability to do that, then I think that we would really change hearts and minds for the long term in many future elections. But he didn't do that. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. And now we're stuck in some respects flat-footed with two white candidates without any diversity, and especially a conservative black Republican.
Do you think Trump was convinced to select J.D. Vance because he was a never-Trumper and this showed some sort of change of mind?
I don't think it went that far. I think that you've got Donald Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance, basically very, very close, good close friends, bromance, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, Tucker Carlson is also very close with J.D. Vance, and Charlie Kirk is extremely close with J.D. Vance. So basically, you had three people picking him, in my opinion. You had Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, and you had Donald Trump Jr. all telling Donald Trump, hey, this is the guy you should pick. Could he have done worse? Absolutely. They could have done way worse. Elise Stefanik, Marco Rubio, you name it. Yeah, they could have done a lot worse. Is he conservative? Is his voting record conservative? Sure. Yeah, very much so. But again, in my book, I think it would have been a disqualifying factor if someone compared you to Hitler like they do on MSLSD. Just my opinion.
MSLSD, there it is. And you can only continue to mock the mainstream media at this point in the game. It's very disturbing to watch what's going on. The assassination, big tech, Josh. There's another one that's decided to even censor out the realities of what we saw with our own eyes a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly. Yeah, big tech is in particular Google, I should say, has been blocking President Trump, President Donald J. Trump, President Donald Trump, assassination attempt. They put, Donald Duck instead, Harris's father, Donald Harris. They're doing anything and everything they can, which is why it's interesting that on, I believe, X yesterday, DuckDuckGo was trending. Gee, I wonder the reason why. Also, I think Elon might actually be thinking about starting his own search engine to compete with Google. I have heard rumors about that. I can't confirm that or deny that at this point.
That's interesting. What a great aside to think that Elon Musk will innovate to create a search engine. And of course, many people are asking also for some sort of mobile phone device that's going to go against the establishment the same way, and in many ways asking for Musk to do that. But of course, Musk is another one that's heavily criticised for his stance, obviously electric vehicles and Neuralink chips as well. But this is someone who wants to play both sides of the fence and has stood up adamantly and said in the artificial intelligence race, so we can't necessarily defeat it, but we have to plan for it and prepare for contingency. So at the very least, Musk is ahead of the curve in pointing out potential dangers and anomalies, whereas it seems others are just more willing to just go ahead at any rate, at any speed, with any consequences. So you have to put Musk ahead of the curve in that regard, don't you?
Yeah, I would say so. Twitter is better than it's been. It's still not perfect. There's still algorithms that are suppressing conservatives, conservative politicians, candidates, and things like that, and is fostering higher results for left-leaning politicians. That was a story that came out just a few days ago, and so I think he needs to take a hold of Linda Vaccarino, who's basically in charge of all of that. And again, she came from mainstream media, I believe. I think it was NBC Universal, if I'm not mistaken, or Disney. I can't remember offhand. But the bottom line is he's much better. And as I've said before, the difference between, let's say, even 2020 and 2024 is in 2020, they had Twitter, they had Facebook, they had Instagram, they had YouTube. There was no Truth Social, there was no Getter, right? In 2024, you have Truth Social, you have Getter, and most importantly, you have X in the middle of it all. And that one is huge, and it's big enough to get the message out. But if they're going to be suppressing candidates and their messaging, that's an issue and that's a problem. But I do like the fact that Elon Musk pointed out and reposted that AI video that was attacking Kamala Harris, because I think it was 160 or 150 million people had a chance to see that. That's a lot of people. When he puts things out there, I think it's wonderful because a lot of people get a chance to see it, and it destroys the narrative on her. And that's what we have to do, drive up her negatives.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, isn't it, Josh, that the electioneering, the campaigning, if you will, goes far and wide. The media has been divided into a mainstream cultural Marxist position that's seemingly impenetrable, indefatigable, but it's not. The panic has more than set in. The alarming events that have followed, the institutional corruption being brought before our very eyes. And you know what? At the end of the day, all of this must be exposed for the people to finally work out what is really going on. And so many of us looking ahead and thinking, well, we are amidst the Great Awakening, and what a time it is to be alive and amongst it. But at the same time, every precaution taken for the safety of those that are putting their necks out literally to save America. Who would have thought that making America great again would be seen as a bad thing by people who live in the land of the free, home of the brave? I'm kind of wondering when it would be that the Democrats would even want to change their national anthem because it's no longer relevant. We've got about a minute left.
Yeah, look, that's an excellent point. That's a really good point. You know, one of the things that I do in my book is when I'm talking about something, improving something, I'm using the FBI's emails. I'm using the scientific community's emails. I literally have their emails in, and I'm highlighting and bolding out, you know, where it says, we couldn't find any Russian influences in here, but we'll keep looking. Like, that stuff is literally in my book. Okay. I mean, I go to areas that normally people would never even dream of going to. And so that's the bravery that needs to be infectious throughout the world, but certainly here in the United States of America. And there's not a lot of us that are willing to do it. James O'Keefe is clearly one of the bravest people, and I absolutely am just in awe at him. He is an incredible patriot. He is someone that takes the risks that no one else really takes, and God bless him for doing that. He is an absolute national treasure among many others.
Yeah, well said. Josh, well, you are doing the work that many of us wish we could do, an incredible legacy that you're leaving yourself. Your book is called Preserving Liberty. Please check it out on Amazon.com, but also the jbushow.com. You might have seen it there on the screen behind you. Please check out Josh's work and support where you can. Josh Bernstein, it's been a great delight to have you back on the show and for the work that you're doing, helping us here at TNT, and of course here on weekends. I love having you on the show and I look forward to speaking with you again real soon.
Anytime, any topic. God
Beautiful.
bless.
Well, that is Josh Bernstein. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. You are watching and listening to Weekends here on TNT.